We produced a film.
I watched that film, yeah.
Called The Hidden Scars. And we had actors from, professional actors who volunteered and supported our group. Night Sky Productions was our media group. But the film has been a critical success. It's been acclaimed. A lot of people have been very appreciative of it.
So, for all the people that haven't watched it, just give us a brief overview of the story, what happened in that film. This is the head coach at Windmill HQ. It's another day with another guest. Punchline Podcast, Mike, Body and Soul. So today we've got the founder of the Saleem Foundation, Shaz. And I'm just going to start by asking you, what is the Saleem Foundation?
Saleem Foundation is a charity that basically raises awareness for serious issues such as mental health, domestic abuse and so on.
Which area do you operate from? Tell us the start of the charity. Why is it called Saleem Foundation? Where you're based and what we do?
I think the background it starts with my granddad. My granddad, Al-Hajj Master Muhammad Saleem, was an amazing person. He did so much for anyone and everyone. He would never turn anyone away. He would always be there to help people and support them, advise them, guide them in the right direction. And most importantly, my granddad always wanted people to do better. And alhamdulillah, that was something that I found so inspiring and influential. So as I was growing up and as you see the work that he was doing within helping and supporting other charities and so on, I started doing the same thing. But I took it to an extreme level by jumping out of planes and so on. He used to call me crazy for that. Sadly, he passed away. It's actually 4 years on the 6th of July, not a few days ago. But I wanted to kind of honor his legacy. And I didn't want people to forget my granddad for what he did and for what he did for them. So many generations really are beneficial because of the work my granddad has done in the past. So I teamed up with a local councillor Steve Walto. He's another inspiring...
The councillor, where's he from?
From Dudley.
Dudley.
So he's a Dudley-based councillor.
Black country bloke, yeah?
That's right, right. Through and through. Steve Walto, an absolute gem, a legend in itself. And the amount of work that he always did is inspiring. I mean, he's climbed Ben Nevis like 50 odd times or something.
So what's his position in the charity? Or is he just like a support?
He's the chairman.
He's the chairman,
so
okay.
What happened was... after my granddad passed, and me and Steve were one day working together, and I asked him what was one thing that he hadn't ever done, just to learn. And because I'm a student of the game, basically. And what he said was the one thing he hadn't done was begin his own charity from scratch. He helped so many different charities. He was on the board of so many different charities, but he never really started one from scratch. So I kept that in my mind. And after my granddad had passed, I met with Steve again, and I said, look, I want to do something for my granddad. I'm not really sure what yet, but I know I want to do something. But I would like you to be the chairman for it.
Okay.
I personally felt I didn't want to be too emotionally attached. Sometimes when something is so precious and you make some mistakes, and I didn't want to do that for the Saleem Foundation. And I wanted someone that I knew who would be a great mentor, who would lead it the right way they should go. And Steve is a perfect person. His wife, an amazing lady. She's like a mother to me.
Okay.
Jane Walto, she's our secretary for the foundation. So I teamed up with the three of us. We met up and we discussed and we decided how to progress it. And then it took us we started we combined a team together in 2017 it was, but we officially got a status in April of 2019.
So what, that charitable status?
Yes, official.
So just for the understanding, what is charitable status? What's the process? And
so what you have to do is you have to register with a charity commission, and you have to set out what your constitution is, what your aims are, what you want to achieve, how are you going to help people, and stuff like that. So the admin side to this,
like a vetting check,
yeah, properly. Yeah, everyone has to be checked out properly to make sure that you're not bankrupt, you're not, up to any fraudulent activities
just
and so on.
Just the basic checks, basically.
Yeah, it's a bit like a DBS, if you like.
And when you talk about the aims and objectives, is it like a mission statement or a slogan for the charity, or
a bit of both? Because realistically, the aims and objectives tends to be your slogan. So our slogan at the moment for the Saleem Foundation is changing lives and building hope. So our missions are based on trying to improve people's lives, trying to help them as much as can. And if it's what our Islam says as well, if you can help one life, you're basically saving the whole of mankind. So we wanted to do things a little bit different. We didn't just want to be a charity that was, just raising money. We wanted to have more of a meaning. So you've got serious issues out there. So stop jumping ahead again. So when I met with our team and we added more members like Alexandra Darby, who's two-time Miss Black Country.
Okay.
So she's got that experience in there. She's done a lot for dementia. So that was another important thing that we wanted to add on. We did have people like Sam Billingham who worked with us. Again, someone that had experience with domestic abuse and so on. And now we've added more people like Karen Wilcox, amazing personality again, Miss European. And she does a lot for dementia as well.
So no, when you said Miss Black Country and Miss European, straight away, because of my lack of understanding, what comes to my mind is a pretty lady in a good-looking show. But what do actually these titles envisage? Or?
See, the thing is that is a natural understanding of what people tend. And I had that when I first met him, but it's much more than that. I mean, the amount of charity work these people do, the pageants, is absolutely inspiring. I mean, Alexandra Darby herself, she's 23, 24 years old, a very young, mature lady, but she is so strong-minded. One of the campaigns that we did with her, I'll mention a bit later on. And I find her so influential. And I feel like I've learned a lot from her, to be fair for you. But again, it's about working as a team and to improve our local community. So when we all got together, and finally when we became a charity in April, the first thing that we want to do, the two or three things that we want to do was, one, raise awareness of certain issues. When I was working, when I was growing up, and I started a little youth group called Kashmir Youth Forum, and I wanted to help youngsters get off the street, get them involved in something like sports and education so they could do something worthwhile for their respective communities. The trouble I had was finance.
Yeah. Everything costs too much.
It was, and it's difficult to raise money for a very good cause, for a non-for-profit making organization, which what Kashmir Youth Forum was. So what I did then was, with the Saleem Foundation now, one thing that we have implemented is, if there are young groups out there who are trying to achieve something positive, do something good for their respective community, as long as they're in the Black Country in Birmingham, because that's where our constitution allows us to work, we will support them. We will basically give them some funding to help them set up. And the other thing that our charity does is we will support one main charity a year. So like, for example, in 2019, we raised over £1,000 for British Liver Trust, which again was an important, I mean, you wouldn't even believe that, the liver does over 240 different functions within the body. No one believes that. No one understands that. But it's a very busy little organ, and it's a very important organ as well. So again, we want to raise money for one major charity, at the same time helping local grassroots groups set up and hopefully get them involved.
This year, what's the charity this year?
We were looking to do leukemia. That was our aim to do it this year. But unfortunately, with COVID-19, a lot of our jobs and activities, events we had to cancel.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
We got our major event in March, February actually, just before COVID kicked in, which was raising awareness for domestic abuse.
Yeah.
We produced a film.
I watched that film, yeah.
Called The Hidden Scars. We had actors from, professional actors who volunteered and supported our group. Night Sky Productions was our media group. But the film has been a critical success. It's been acclaimed. A lot of people have been very appreciative of it. Our story was different. I didn't want to focus on...
So, for all the people who haven't watched it, just give us a brief overview of the story, what happened in that film.
Yeah, so with the film, I didn't want to focus on violence. I didn't want to show man or woman or man violence. And
that's a misconception that people have. They think it's always the man, but it could be also the man receiving violent treatment, which equally is as bad as each other.
Exactly, and we need to keep that in mind. I mean, the stats are out there where men do get abused as well, and I think it's important that we keep that in mind as well. All abuse is wrong, and we should all do our best to try and prevent it or stop it. So, but I think what people forget, children are involved as well.
Yeah.
And what our film focused on was on the children.
Just talk us through the film from
So,
beginning to end?
giving a brief outline of the film. So we have two couples. We call them couple A and couple B.
Yeah.
So couple A is hosting a little birthday do. It's the wife's birthday. Unfortunately, the film starts with her applying makeup to her face because she's been assaulted by her husband. But it's a perception. You don't see it, you know it's happened. Couple B, meanwhile, are waiting in the lounge and waiting for the host to arrive, come in. The man comes in, meets him, greets him. Now, both couples have a child each. So the man tells, couple A man tells the both children go and play. They sit down. The wife joins them from couple A. So they're both having a little banter, talking. You know, everything's all normal. She's put makeup on. You wouldn't even tell that she's been abused. It's a basic, normal, happy family. And just to run through it, the two children walk in the scene now, and they're dressed up. One's got the young girl has a scarf on, and the boy has a little toy, and they're like, "Oh, we're getting married." Both parents are like, "What the hell?" Kids, you know how they've watched their older, they've stopped, they're playing games and so on. So the kids are like, "We're getting married." No, we're adamant. So the host, the couple B, the gentleman from there, he's like, "Well, okay, tell us what you're going to do when you get married." "I'm going to be like my dad. I'm going to go out to work. I'm going to earn a living." Brilliant. What's the girl going to do? "Oh, she's going to be cooking, learning, getting things ready for me." Fantastic. "What are you going to do when you come home?" "Oh, when I come home, I'm going to hit her."
Okay.
So straight away.
So he's looking from the outside in.
Exactly.
Revealing
Straight
the
away,
secrets.
both couples are like, "Wow, what the hell is going on here?" Now, the little twist here is the boy then says, "Oh, after I've done that, I'm going to go to bed." The girl goes, No. "Before you do that, I'm going to bring food to you. You're going to grab the food. You're going to throw it on the floor. Tell me that I'm useless, and then you'll go sleep."
Whoa. So it goes a bit deep.
So it shows that the other couple had verbal abuse. Obviously, we're trying to show different types of abuse. So you got the physical side from the boy who said, "I'm going to hit her." But then the emotional and the verbal abuse that the girl, the couple B are going through is outlined by
That's
the young
highlighted
girl.
as well, yeah. So basically everyone's got issues
Exactly.
and sometimes we just hide the issues.
I think the biggest tagline for the film was, and which we really focused on, is kids grow up believing it's okay to violate each other.
Yeah, but it's not okay.
It's not.
Yeah.
And that's the message we wanted to get at, because the cases, the research that we did before the film, and I came across this one lady who said that her partner abused her, but he was actually a witness when he was a child. He saw his dad abusing his mother, but even though he knew it was wrong, it kind of seemed that it was right, and he was doing it to his partner as he grew up.
Yeah, I think when you get exposed to certain situations and behaviors, not normal, but it just becomes something habitual, where you've seen it happen and you think that I'm going to do the same thing. Even if you don't want to, you find it hard to control yourself. And the scary thing you mentioned is a lot of people don't talk about it. And the facts and figures we've got are the ones who have either been caught or have talked about it. And there's so many others like an iceberg that probably don't talk about it. So I always say that the first thing and the best thing to do is to bring it out and talk. Talking is always the most important thing to do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think it's talking is, like you say, is a very important thing. And but a lot of people, men or women, that are going through domestic abuse, some of them feel like, "Oh, he's not a bad person. He's not a bad, or she's not a bad person." And they sometimes just accept it. And I think that's where we go wrong, by accepting it. Any kind of abuse is not right, regardless of who's it from. And I think we need to step up from it. And a lot of our survivors out there who've gone through for years, who've been cooped up, and they change their lifestyles to make this one person happy, they lose themselves. But then, you know, we're working with a lot of people now. We were going to launch our Hidden Scars Coffee Mornings, bringing survivors, talking about the experience and trying to prevent this happening to another life. Obviously, lockdown research did show, and stats currently did show, that it went up
to the peak,
yeah.
Because people are stuck at home with the abuser or the person who's violent, and the longer you're in the room with somebody, the more exposed you are to that kind of behavior.
And the other side to that is some of the survivors felt like they were trapped again.
Yeah.
You know, there was that side to it as well. They felt like they were trapped again and they can't get out because of COVID-19. And I think, you know, it's a terrible thing, and we need to do everything that we can to try and help people as much as we can.
And when we talk about mental health, obviously some people have instant reactions and they go into depression. But some people later on in life, they have flashbacks or they see another relationship which triggers the memories off. And so obviously I've got a bit of experience with mental health because I used to work in a government job where we uphold the principles of the Mental Capacity Act. And it's basically safeguarding people who have dementia or temporary loss of memory or permanent loss of memory. And the actual physical document we used to work was a lasting power of attorney. And that is like a passport for chosen people, either professionals or family members or friends, to act on your behalf. And it was really interesting. And obviously every day I used to go to work, I used to know I'm helping somebody with a mental health issue, but it is a massive issue on a government level, on an international level. And nowadays we see star celebrities that have come out with mental health issues. So even if you're earning millions and billions, it's not always a happy story.
No.
So just for young people that I work with in a club environment, as a coach, as a mentor, some people look at you as an elder sibling. What advice do you think would be critical for me on a daily basis to share with my audience to try and trigger people to come and talk about mental health issues? Because a lot of people, it's taboo. They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
They feel like it makes them weak. It makes them inferior to others. Or in a boxing club, if you're a boxer, you don't have space for being weak, but you do.
Yeah.
Like we've had world champion boxers, Tyson Fury's story, for example. He's the best boxer in the world, in the best division, the heavyweight division, and he had mental health issues. And if he can have it, anybody can have it.
Exactly.
Because he's ultimately the best boxer on the planet at the moment. So what advice and what approach would I give to young people to encourage them that, look, it's okay to talk about this?
I think the biggest thing is it's okay not to be okay. People need to understand that straight away. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. We all go through it. I mean, I personally, when my granddad passed, it really hit me hard. And it took me a while to get myself going and sort myself out. But it's not, it happens to everyone. Once in a while, we will all go through depression, as horrible as it is. But it's really, really important that we talk about it and not to be embarrassed. Because, I mean, that's where the culture that sometimes we have and the surroundings that we have, people think, oh, you know what, it's embarrassing, or like you said, it's taboo to have, you can't be that, you can't be classed as that. You're not classed as anything.
No, especially in our culture.
Exactly.
In our culture, there's a saying where they say, look, just cover it up. Don't bring it out in the public realm. Keep it within your four walls. But that makes it worse.
Well, that's where we make it worse. And I think it's frightening as well, because you don't know. I mean, I had a friend, colleague of mine, and her friend's daughter, basically, happy, no issues, doing very well in school, out of the blue, committed suicide. Because she couldn't talk about it. Clearly there was an issue. No one takes their own life that drastic step for no reason. And some of the people who tried to take their life and, were saved, if you like. I mean, I've had a chance to speak to them, and they feel that they're a burden on others. And for that reason, they feel like they're being selfless. They feel like they're doing someone else a favor. And we as people might think, oh, you're being selfish, taking your life. Why would you do that? But what we don't understand is, in their mind, they feel they're selfless. They feel like they're doing us a favor. And I think it's important that we talk. And more importantly than anything else, we need to be kind. That's the biggest thing, because you don't know what we could be, let's say, catching a bus and someone could be in their own world. We don't know what that person's going through. So it's so important that we try to do our best. And that's why we, in our film, The Silent Pain, we showed a guy that was always laughing, joking, smiling. We didn't show his concerns. You saw what you saw.
What he wanted to show.
Exactly. Yeah. But you don't know what he's going through. And it's so important that we try and be kind and be nice. And maybe sometimes people talk to strangers. So let's say you go on a bus together and you might say, how you doing? And I might just open up to you. We get that. Obviously, I'm also chairman of the Delhi Private Hire Taxi Association. And in our taxis, we pick up so many elderly people who are cooped up in a house alone. When they get out into a taxi, they have just such lovely, they do. They have such lovely conversations. I mean, wow, where is this coming from? Because they're alone. So it's important that we be kind, and it's important we be there for one another, because the bottom line is we are one. Yeah. And that's the message that I'd love to get out there.
Okay, you touched on some of the suicide. So let's just talk about it. It's a real thing and it's serious. So what kind of stories and what kind of reasons have people given you? Obviously, we won't name anybody because of confidentiality, but what reasons and stories have you heard, and what can you share with us?
I mean, I mentioned a story just before where a friend of ours whose daughter just randomly took her life. No one heard about it. You've heard, so I mean, you see news, Karen Flack, for example, in the media where that's been quite highlighted quite severely. Sometimes you just don't know what someone's going through. It's so difficult to pick up. I mean, someone could be so happy the next minute taking their life. It's impossible to deal with that. So a lot of times the people that we have spoken to who've lost someone is we never heard it. But then there are cases where they've been bullied. And it's not physical bullying, it's cyberbullying, which is a big, big thing at the moment. And that is really, really frightening. So you might see someone happy in that, right? But you don't know what they're going through because obviously lockdown, cyberbullying went up the charts. And I mentioned Alexandra Darby to you before. She performed, did a little live performance, you know, when they were doing clap for NHS. So she basically did a performance at Russell's Hall because the management invited her. It was meant to be a virtual event, but a lot of people turned up. But she took the flak for it for no good reason. It was unfair on her, really. I think everyone had a part to play. And because of that, she has so many death threats, you know, so many abusive things.
It's online, yeah?
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, I saw
So
some of the
we
comments.
call these keyboard warriors, I don't know what you call them.
Well, we agree.
Yeah,
That's what we
sometimes
call
somebody's
them.
not very brave and they're just acting brave and they're very good at literature and good with words. And
That's it. But then again, the point comes to you don't know how that plays in someone else's mind. And Alex, to fair to her, at first she shut herself out, and then we encouraged her, we supported her, we worked with her. Eventually she returned to Facebook and she came back stronger because then she came to me and she said, look, I want to do a cyberbullying campaign. And she did a video, which is on our Facebook page at the moment, which we helped produce. And she's basically writing words that people called her on her face. And eventually she was like, you know what, we need to move away from this. We need to remove these words and put positive words, put positive vibes, so we can encourage other people, support other people. Let's be kind to one another. And again, these kind of things, obviously Alex was a strong person that was able to get out of it, but there are people out there who have been cyberbullied. This is what Alex made. The point that she made was absolutely amazing. She said, I was able to get through this because I had a lot of positive friends who encouraged me and supported me. There are so many young girls and young boys out there who are not being given that support, who are not talking about the incident, that no one knows what they're going through. What are they going through? What is playing in their mind? This is why suicide again comes into it, because they feel they're not being helped, they've been supported, they feel like they're such bad people because of other people's words, when other people are not realizing the impact that they are having on these lives, innocent lives.
so, you know, for let's say somebody's watching this sort of information or message that you're giving and they've personally wrote something to harm someone, how can they put it right? How would you approach it? Let's say I made a derogatory comment about somebody I know and it affected them really bad. Or let's say I said something about their hairstyle and they went away and from that day they've never taken the hat off. They'll wear a suit at a wedding, but they'll still wear a hat on top, like a cap. And because of that, they're getting more grilling. And that was because I created the problem. So what advice would you give me to put things right?
First thing you need to obviously is accept it, that you've done wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are making comments, oh, that's my opinion, I'm allowed to. Yeah, you're allowed to your opinion, but not if it's...
Can I just say something really bad?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it because I feel like it. Opinions are like... Everybody's got one. But it doesn't mean it's the truth.
It's true.
And sometimes the choice of wording has an impact.
Exactly.
And there's 101 ways to say something, but you shouldn't say it in a way where you're going to make someone feel inferior or...
Well, this is why I've just said that it's important that we accept it, because most of the people will not accept what they've done wrong. So the first thing they need to do is accept that they were wrong to make that comment. I mean, realistically, we have no right to judge another person. Who are we? We're not exactly saints. So if you made that comment, first thing to do is accept it. Second is apologize to that person and make them understand that, look, you know, I was wrong. Simple as that. And hopefully that will help them, because it will give us, well, you know what, that's quite a nice thing for you to do. Because the person that apologizes, you know, it's a big thing to do, to apologize. It's not a small thing. Again, but the person forgiving is a bigger person, and he needs to be able, or she needs to be able to accept that, okay, they made a mistake. Let's move on from this. But again, it comes back to opinions. People are quick to judge, make the comments, sometimes without even knowing the full facts. That let's see a half a video on somewhere on social media, they'll make a comment on it without realizing the full impact. But again, those comments can have a negative impact. So it's always important that we be careful what we say. And it comes back to the point I made earlier. Let's be kind.
You know, when you said about how you say things online, when I first started using computers a long time ago, the figure LOL, obviously it means laugh out loud.
Yeah.
But somebody actually wrote that on the bottom of a funeral post. And looking at it, I just went crazy. I was like, why would you write that? But afterwards, it actually came about that historically, some of the older generation on gravestones wrote LOL, and it means lots of love.
Oh, yeah.
And I just took the wrong understanding. And I basically grilled the person in an inbox private message, and they just turned around and said, well, why didn't you just ask me why I wrote it and what I wrote? And then I learned that there's different ways of saying things. So sometimes it's a misconception as well.
Exactly. Well, this is the point I made just before. Like they'll see something and they think, oh, you know what, that's what's going on. And without having that true understanding or knowing the truth, they'll like you did, like you grilled that person. But it's a good job that person that you spoke to was happy to make you understand what their point was, rather than locking himself off or blocking you and so on.
It's the same with the, emojis.
Yeah.
Like different people can take them differently.
Yeah.
And there's no clear, like in a dictionary, a word would have a clear definition. With the emoji, it's quite open to interpretation.
I think these days, especially with lockdown, cyberbullying was the biggest things. A lot of it, yes, it's misunderstandings. It's not knowing the full facts. It's not even listening to the full story. Like you might read half a paragraph, half a comment, and you might go off. But in actual fact, if you read the full paragraph, have the true understandings, you probably realize that person didn't really mean harm. So we need to be careful what we say, and it's difficult though. But I think in terms of parents have a big responsibility for young kids on social media. Watch what they're saying, because cyberbullying is real, and it is such a big crime. A lot of people are taking their lives because of that as well. And that is a frightening thing.
Do you think people like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, whichever other social media platform, they think they're doing enough to control?
No, quite simply they're not. And I'll give you an example of that. It comes back to Alex. There was a comment that someone made was, go shoot yourself, right? When we reported it, Facebook come back and said, oh, this is not against our community standards and stuff. How is go shoot yourself not against your standards?
Any standard?
Exactly. It makes absolute no sense. And we were like, wow,
So do you think as a community or an organization, yourself as a charity, other charities, the government should put pressure on these institutes to do better?
We all have a responsibility. And I think, one of the main things behind the Saleem Foundation was that it's not just the police, it's not just the government, it's not just, Facebook, for example. It's everyone's responsibility. We all have a duty of care. And I think if COVID has taught us anything is to appreciate more, not take things for granted. But more importantly, let's help each other, because life's too short.
And
exactly,
we can.
We're able.
Because when we do, it doesn't take anything away from us. It makes us feel better. It makes our society better. It makes the community better.
And that's what, some of the events that we've done with the Saleem Foundation, like, for example, raising awareness for breast cancer. We've done a Unite Your Hands campaign where we had 22 organizations collect items such as clothing, food and stuff like that, toiletries for the homeless. And then we had a soup kitchen where we gave that, and the appreciation that we received from people was absolutely amazing. And the normal people who some made some bad choices in life, ended up on the streets, and some lost everything to certain bad habits and everything. But at the end of it, they're good at heart. They made some bad calls. Like I said before, we all have that duty of care.
I think as humans, what we are particularly bad at is understanding from another person's point of view. Like, for example, in the past, I've had homeless people come up to me, and it's quite clear and evident that they've got an addiction or a habit that they're trying to fund with that collected money. And it's really easy to push them away and say to them no and go away and whatever. But if I turn the tables around and I was that person and I had a habit, obviously it's a mistake I made, and I need support and I need help and I need understanding. And the worst thing I would expect if I was in that person's shoes was someone to brush me away as like I don't exist, because that would make me do a negative spiral and get worse. And I'll go and steal and I'll go and do more things to fund that addiction or whatever. But I think in society, in the smaller communities, larger communities across the government. I think the government's taken an active step now in COVID, helping homeless people, but we need to do a lot more because it's a growing problem. And some of the problem might stem from what we talked about earlier about domestic violence and, abuse and bullying. And that's what can affect somebody and lead them to ultimately take on a habit which suppresses that feeling of depression, like alcohol and drugs, self-harm.
Without that. And I think, what you said is spot on, really, that, we need to do as much as more as we can. But I think the person sometimes who's in that position of homeless needs to take the first step of accepting, okay, I'm in trouble, I need to sort myself out, I need to get out of this. They need to make that first move as well, because sometimes you can help, someone that has an addiction, but until that person accepts it and is willing, they'll go back into the spiral, back into it. And that is also another concern of, relapsing and so on. It's a difficult one. It is a very difficult one, but the bottom line is we got to keep trying. We can't give up on people, otherwise it's like more or less you're giving up on yourself. And the more we do better for our community and the more we do to help people, it will freshen up the community. It will make it more stronger, make it more united. You can't go wrong with that.
Go back to what you said earlier about the Saleem Foundation. You mentioned your granddad, and obviously the foundation is named after him. So tell me about your granddad. I've never met him. So explain to me what his character was, how he was, and if I met him, how I would feel meeting him.
You would love him. My granddad, alhamdulillah, was a teacher in Pakistan. And he used to cycle from his village where he lived to the school. It used to take approximately 2 hours. Now, you might think cycling 2 hours is minor, but you have to remember this is back in the 60s when roads literally didn't exist.
There's no roads in Pakistan at the moment.
So it was a bumpy road track, basically a dirt track. So he would cycle 2 hours, have his class for 5 hours or whatever, and then cycle 2 hours back in the evening. That is 9 hours of work that he used to do. He was a strong man. Eventually, when he came over to England, he started a life here. He supported so many people. He helped people set up, like people that were coming over, they were unsure because my granddad was, literally he understood.
He's a learned person, so he could do paperwork and explain and translate. And
so he helped so many different people set up here and basically helped them. But he was a humble person. He would never, ever brag about what he did. He would never, ever make it, I did this for you. I expect he would do it out of goodness of his own heart. And the most beautiful thing I remember about my granddad, which is a lesson that I've learned and I've kept with me, is when he would help someone, they would say, how can we repay you, whatever? He would say, remember me in your prayers. So now today, as the chair of the Dudley Private Hire Taxi Association, I have like 700 members and so many drivers. I go to taxi committees, which is like a little court for magistrates court for taxi drivers. And I'm able to support these drivers and get them off. And they say the same thing to me. What can we do for you? Like, just pray for me. And alhamdulillah, my granddad, he was a beautiful person and a very amazing person. And whenever he walked in, you would just give him that respect. You would automatically just give him that respect. You would recognize him, you acknowledge him. And on the day he passed, it was on Eid. One thing I'll always remember and I'll always be grateful for was so many people left their moment of happiness to join us in our pain, because of the respect that he had. And Dudley Central Mosque, where his funeral was held here, was absolutely packed out. So many people from all over the country traveled just to say their goodbyes to him. So when I saw how many people were there, and I thought, I don't want my granddad's legacy to be forgotten. And more importantly now is Sadaqah Jariyah. So alhamdulillah, every good thing that the Saleem Foundation is able to do, the blessings, will go to my granddad.
So obviously, looking at the broader picture, granddad was a very religious person as well. So how does religion and belief fall into the Saleem Foundation?
We don't put religion into our foundation directly because we are here to help anyone and everyone. We don't discriminate. In itself,
arguably, that is religious.
But the teachings, the teachings we are applying, because if you look at most of the religions anyway, some of the teachings do mirror each other. But the most important thing is about being human. It's about helping every one person that you can, not for any other motive other than the fact that you care. And I think that is the biggest thing that we want to apply in our work that we do as a Saleem Foundation. We've got no other motive other than the fact that we want to help someone and we want to do good. And it goes back, like I said, religion teachings do be applied. And one of our Islamic teaching is if you are able to save one person, it's like you're saving all mankind. And so that's what we want to be doing. And alhamdulillah, the work that we have done so far, I mean, in 1 year, we did so many different projects. Obviously, COVID kind of slowed us down a bit, but we still did. We launched our cyberbullying campaign during lockdown because of what Alex went through. So we still did some work. I mean, some of our members like Steve and Jane have been working with food banks in these difficult times and helping them. So we still are doing something, but not as much as we probably would like because of that restriction. But hopefully when COVID's touch wood all cleared, we'll get back out there.
So, the future, let's say the future, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Let's just say a situation came about where an undercover millionaire in Dudley came across your foundation and said, here's £10 million. What would be the next project or the growth of the charity?
I've always believed the future is our generation, the new generation.
The young people.
So if we were able to get that kind of funding and that, the first thing we would do, we'll have different, youth and community centers set up around different areas and towns where we would encourage youngsters to get them off the street, get them involved in sports and education, do something worthwhile that they could, make that community of theirs, enhance it by making it better. And I feel that, a lot of our youngsters are involved in drugs and that's something that I feel disappointed and disheartened. And like I said to you before, we all have that responsibility. So I feel like I've got that responsibility to protect these youngsters, get them off that street, man, so they could do something really worthwhile.
See, you got a similar vision to us. One of our main driving objectives here at the Windmill HQ and through this podcast as well, the Punchline podcast, is to inspire. So people like you are here specifically to inspire the youth and basically make them know that it's possible to do anything if you put the right effort in.
I mean, I'll tell you a bit of a story about myself. When I was in school, right, I was a bit of a troublemaker at the start. And you know how you mentioned earlier that you're about giving people a second chance. So when I was in school, I was in year 10 and, you have your predicted grades come up. And I remember my deputy head, this was quite unheard of really, called me into his office and just threw a paper in front of me. And they were all E's, man. And he goes, you're not going to get nothing. You're not going to get into college. And
E for excellent.
That's what I thought it was. So, I mean, the first thing that come to my mind was like, my mom's chapel, man.
Mom and dad are going to kill me.
That's it. Yeah, that mom's chapel, mate. Size 7. I thought I was gone. But you know what? I was a bit too proud of myself, a bit cocky. And I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to get the 5 GCSEs I need to go to college. He goes, son, very rare we get it wrong. 99%, I think he said, this is accurate. I'm going to prove you wrong. Watch me. So I come out that room now thinking, yeah, man, I've had a big man talk. Like, then I thought to myself, crap, man, I need to sort myself out. I got to prove him wrong. I can't just do the talk and not walk it. So alhamdulillah, after that, I start messing around. I start working really, really hard. And even at break times, I was revising, I was working. I'd be home and working. My mom was like, what's wrong with you?
Is everything okay?
I'm like, I'm working. What more do you want? You still can't win, like, you know what I mean? But at the end of it, I received the 5 GCSEs and there was a presentation evening and alhamdulillah, I still have this certificate with me. I received Student of the Year. That was I still remember when they called my name out, all my class fellows were like,
they got that right.
What the hell, you know what I mean? What's going on there? It's fixed. You know what I mean? But for me, it was like the beginning for me. I thought, you know what? I appreciated that recognition. And I never thought I liked that recognition more. And I realized that, you know what? I can do more. It was just the fact I was just lazy. I couldn't be bothered. I just thought being the clown in the class was the coolest thing to do, but it's not, man. Getting that certificate was the coolest thing to do. So when I go into schools now, because I work with a lot of different schools as well as part of the charity, a part of the work that I do in the community, that message I pass to them is like, be something. Because in life, you got 2 paths. Either you want to be a someone or you want to be a no one. And that no one path is very lonely, but that someone path is very special. And you have each and every one. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
I think, that story is something what I can pick out of that immediately is it's okay to reset. Sometimes you can spiral to the wrong path. You can get into trouble. You can feel like no motivation, but it's okay to reset and start again.
More importantly, opportunities will be there without a doubt. You just need to look for it. You just need to find it. More importantly, you need to believe in yourself. And I think a lot of our people think, I can't do that. Why not? Have you tried? I'd rather people try and fail than not do it and fail. And that's why the most important messages I always give is never give up. Always believe in yourself.
The one thing that I went to a recent coaching convention and they said, we don't believe in failure. You try and you learn. So even if we class it as failure, you always learn lessons. And that is life basically. Success is what comes at the end of what you've learned. But the learning process is life. And you can always better yourself and always aim higher and do it better next time. And obviously, once you've done it great, you inspire so many other people to do it great. That's the main message I would say to young people.
And I would echo that. I would definitely echo that. And I think it's so important that we try and do something, because too many times, like we'll follow another person, whether it's a friend or an elder sibling, and we're saying, you know what, they never did this, or why should I? Well, no, you do try and do better.
It's easy to take a backseat.
Yeah.
Until the community starts going out of control. And then we blame the government, or we blame the councillors, or we blame whoever the local authority is. But really, like you said, we all have a responsibility. And what have we actually done to make things better? And if you sit back and just let it happen, that's nothing.
Exactly. And this is why I say that it's not just one or two different organizations' responsibility. We all have that. And we need to do everything we can in our power to change. And like sometimes, there's an old saying that if you want to change, you got to change yourself first. So if I wanted to be something, I want to do something different and positive, I need to change my attitude. I need to make sure that I'm able to deliver and not be a hypocrite. And I think a lot of people out there, youngsters especially, they lack icons and they have this mentality of, watching shows or this get rich die trying mentality. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Make your community proud. More importantly, make your parents proud. Alhamdulillah, I'll tell you another story about my mom. She always used to cuss me when I was younger. Oh, you're not. Look at so-and-so and look at you. Now, alhamdulillah, when she's there talking to people about me, I feel proud because I've given her that position to talk proudly about me. So just imagine if you could do that for your parents, how beautiful would that be? And that goes to all communities, really. Sometimes we lack that respect for our parents, and we shouldn't, because they are there. Sometimes they may be harsh, but they're there to guide us and for them to make us better as a person than what they were in their time.
The foundation. So what upcoming projects have you got that we should be looking forward to?
Well, the Uniting Hands, we're going to do a second year of that again once COVID's over. We were looking to do a bigger event for raising awareness for dementia and so on. And we want to do a massive event in Maryhill. So we're waiting and see if that's possible.
Tell us about massive. What do you mean massive?
We were going to do like a little fashion show, involve different schools and so on, and make an environmental fashion show kind of thing. So there was quite a lot of plans around that.
Have you got anybody in particular, a famous person who's going to take part? Or
we got Alex around Derby. That's the famous person that we've got. Local. But I'm sure we will. Obviously, that was in the early stages.
See, what I'm trying to say is, this particular episode of this podcast is going to go out there. Someone's going to see it. Let's say somebody like...
But you know what? Regardless of who it is, right? If there is someone out there that is willing, and like I said before, we all have a responsibility. So do they. So if you can feel you can help us, please.
That's what I was going to get at.
We welcome it. You know, we wouldn't say no to it, because I think any sport that we could get is welcome, because you're better together. We're stronger together. The more people are doing for the right cause with the right intentions with a similar direction, we can even grow and be better. And every project that we have done, we've always included other community members. We've all included organizations. Like, for example, when we did the dementia event last year, we had Alzheimer's UK involved and other charities involved, because we wanted to let people know the great work that they're doing. It's all about sharing that work. More importantly, it's about raising awareness and trying to do something really positive for our community.
And like now we're in lockdown. Like, I'm at home. Most people are at home. We're not going out unless it's absolutely necessary. If we are, we're taking precautions. What's the one thing we can do to have an impact, let's say online, on social media? Is there anything we can do or change in our approach and using social media where we can have an impact on reducing the amount of people who suffer from mental health issues?
The most important thing we can do, especially online, is share positive stories. Share a lot of that positivity out there. I mean, sometimes we hear so much negative stories that we begin to think that there's nothing good out there. But so let's share something really positive. I mean, I did some cooking with my kids. I've never cooked in my life before. I done some baking with my kids. I did little apprentice schemes with them, but they were positive stories. And I think they're so beautiful. They're so heartwarming and touching that people think, oh, that's so, that's really nice. And they want to do things like that. So the more positivity we can spread out there, the less issues we're really going to have. And I think that is another thing that the Saleem Foundation really wants to do, spread positivity out there. Things can be doomy and gloomy all the time, man. But the bottom line is if we don't appreciate what we have, we're never going to really enjoy it. So it's so important that we spread enough positive, help one another, and work with everyone as well. So online is a great, fantastic tool to spread messages and also to influence people to do good stuff.
Yeah, I think in the boxing sort of community, loads of coaches across the country like put out messages for motivation. Sometimes it could be like learning a raw skill, a fun challenge where everybody can get involved from their own household. That helps. Me personally, what I do once a week or twice a week, I'm interested in animals, and one of my heroes is Attenborough. But just looking at professional photographers' pictures of like bunny rabbits, tigers, lions, something abstract that just takes me away from my day-to-day activity, that kind of refreshes my mind. It's like a safe digital space, you can say. So just look at things you're interested in, things that take your mind off your stresses.
It gives you peace. I mean, whatever gives you peace really is important. And we need to do as much as we can to spread that message and share those things. Like you said, what you've just said now, you like animals and that. By sharing that, there'll be some people else out there that will have the similar hobby to yourself. And again, it will give them peace and then make them happy. And again, it's all about that, spreading that positivity.
So I'm going to say a massive thank you to you. And I wish all the best to Saleem Foundation. I hope we can work together in the future after COVID, or maybe during COVID if it goes on for a long time. I'm going to ask you to wrap up for me because you're the main attraction on this podcast. So give us a couple of sentences, a bit of advice to wrap this whole conversation and leave people feeling great.
Well, first thing I want to say thank you to you guys. You guys have been absolutely amazing, giving me this opportunity to spread this message out there. Spread the message of Saleem Foundation. And I think by ending it, I want to say to the people that are listening and viewing this the Saleem Foundation aims to change lives and build hopes. We can't do that alone. We are all one. We got this. We can all do this together. And the only reason we can do it is because we're together, by working together and strengthening our community. So let's do it. Let's work it because we've got this.